Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, all about dashboards. Get you ready, and here we go. All right, my name is Tom Gabriel. I'm a senior solution consultant here at GSI. First, our safe harbor agreement. As you can see, we're giving you the latest and greatest information that we know as of today, but understand that your JD Edwards system is a very fluid system and it's constantly progressing and constantly evolving into a more robust ERP platform. So, what's our agenda for today? I'm going to give you a quick introduction, some housekeeping. We'll have a quick company overview, and then we'll get into our main presentation. And then I'll follow up with a call to action and some question and answers. So, again, for today's session, if you'd like to chat, up in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a little icon for chat. If you'd like to raise a question, ask a question, simply click on the Q&A button and input your question. We'll get to those at the end of the session. So again, as I said, I'm Tom Gabriel with GSI. We're a full service consultancy organization that manages everything in ERP, SaaS, cloud, ITSM, cybersecurity. We do consulting, we do managed services, both on a functional basis as well as a technical basis. All of our consultants have industry certifications and or applications within the various products that we support and offer. We are a shop that has advanced automated augmented intelligence as well as automation products that allow us to turn around and augment what you have in your systems right now today and make them function better. We do have offices nationwide as well as a global presence with our partners throughout the rest of the world. And as I said, we are offer managed services on a 8x5, 12x5, 24x7 basis. And we're versed in Oracle, be it JD Edwards, NetSuite, eBiz. We're versed in cloud, AWS, Azure. We also have a ServiceNow practice. But the most important thing that I like to tell people is we are the only organization out there that offers a 100% guarantee on our services. If we come in and we unfortunately don't do things to your satisfaction, we ask that you let us make it right with no charge to you. So, what other offerings do we have besides consulting and managed services? We offer products that extend your business and extend how you can manage your systems. We have a Genius Augmented Intelligence that is both for JD Edwards as well as outside of JD Edwards for any of your mission critical systems. It offers an application health monitoring as well as a proactive type of approach to resolve your connectivity issues and your system issues. We know of issues before they occur in your system. We also offer a product called Genesis, a performance optimizer. We internally use this whenever we're at an account, especially companies that acquire companies or divest companies or want to upgrade. We use this product to help do stress and load testing and system performance testing within your JD Edwards world. A new product that we came out with is called Genome. This one is in particular is important, especially for today's discussion. And the reason it's important is because Genome is a product that will go into your JD Edwards system and identify for you those customizations and modifications that you've made that you are constantly maintaining and spending money and time on maintaining, those modifications and customizations that can go away because of the new tools that JD Edwards is offering. So we're going to talk about a few in a little bit. But again, this is a product that'll help you understand those customizations and modifications that you can retire. Rapid Reconciler is our perpetual inventory to GL reconciliation tool to make sure that your quantities and costs are all in agreement, balance sheet to your perpetual. More importantly than that, it also provides you with subsidiary ledgers for that unknown liability called received not vouchered. It lets you understand what items have not been received against what POs, what hasn't been paid for yet. And on the flip side, on the asset side, it helps you understand that black hole of in-transit inventory. What inventory went from warehouse A and it's on its way to warehouse B? How do I understand the visibility of that? We have rapid approval for Salesforce that allows people to turn around and approve via batch versus singular. And our last product, G Shield, it is a two-factor authentication for those clients that have JD Edwards remotely and mobily. It allows them to have someone text back a code before they can access JD Edwards. And more importantly, it also allows you to reset your passwords without having to contact your administrator to do that. And that's very important for clients that have a West Coast, East Coast presence or a US based type of enterprise, and yet they have offices throughout the world. So having said all that, let's move forward and let's talk about JD Edwards. Let's talk about dashboards. Let's talk about what's important. As you can see here, ERP technology, especially JD Edwards, is constantly evolving and constantly growing. Back before release 9.0, which came out in September of 2008, your JD Edwards system was really a traditional ERP, a transactional system of record kind of thing that people use as a pseudo data warehouse. Then all of a sudden, Oracle said, wait a minute, we got to upgrade to the 9. Some of you might remember that. Let's upgrade to the 9s and make your JD Edwards system even better. So release 9.0, release 9.1 came out between September of 2008 and March of 2012. And what was introduced? Mobility, Internet of Things, Collaborator, the initial version of Orchestrator, the ability to have JD Edwards in the cloud. So if you remember, upgrade to the 9s, if you remember, hey, let's become a digital enterprise, let's release 9.0 and 9.1. Well, what happened with release 9.2? That came out over 2 years ago in December of 2018. And that's when JD Edwards moved into a supervised ERP where automated processes and some natural language and chatbots kind of processes were incorporated within the system. Some rudimentary assisted decision making. Orchestrator has evolved now into a robust tool where you can now get real-time collaboration between systems, between customers, between vendors on a real-time basis versus what? Things like, EDI and taking batch uploads and doing it once a day or doing it every 6 hours. Now you literally can create REST services and go back and forth real time. Not only that, you can, when that orchestrator runs and that transaction is processed, it can trigger notifications to people to turn around and say, hey, now you have something you need to work on, something that you have to turn around and act upon. Your system now is becoming more automated, which means you as a user can spend more time making the critical decision versus managing and babysitting transactions going forward. Now, JD Edwards hasn't stopped, Oracle hasn't stopped. The next level is going to be machine learning and assisted or automated decision making, where when a transaction comes in, even though you get notified and say, hey, put it over here, the system is going to learn and the system's going to know, hey, if I see this order type needs to go here. Or, when this transaction happens, this is what I need to do. I being the machine itself, the system itself, adaptive intelligence. So in the past, what did people care about? Your first ERP system, all I cared about was how fast, how far did I go, how much gas do I have left? That's it. That's the only information that your ERP system was concerned about. But what about today? Look at today and the amount of information that people are getting, that society is driving and generating. And that information all plays together and all works together. And we need to be able to see that information and we need to be able to act upon that information. So today's ERP system needs some type of dashboard, some type of communication, some type of visualization to help people do what they need to do. Back in the day, yeah, hieroglyphics. Somebody did something in a cave, and unless somebody actually went into the cave and looked at that information, they would not know about it. And if they went to the cave today and then they went to the cave 3 months later, that information was the same. That information was stale. That information was one time, one and done, and it was only available to the people that went looking for it. Well, then Gutenberg turned around and said, you know what? We need a way to mass produce the data so that multiple people can see it. And that was great. We were able to print things and disseminate it to the masses and ship it all over the place. But the message in the data was the same. So even though things may have changed, we had to go through this whole rigorous process again to reprint and resend all this information. Well, somebody said, hey, wait a minute. We have computers. We have the internet. Why don't we start sending information back and forth? And then once that information gets there, somebody can print it out. And then they could print it wherever they are and look at it. So yeah, we touched a lot of people. But guess what? That data was still stale data. 3, 4, 5 hours later, I'd have to run a report, print a report, and look at that information again. And then all of a sudden, Bill said, wait a minute, there's got to be a better way. Maybe what we do is we take all this information, we dump it down into a tool. That tool can have multiple macros running or whatever. It could pull all the information into a, very rough kind of data warehouse concept kind of thing. And then people can build a pivot table over it, and they just keep pushing the data in and run the pivot table and they can look at it. But again, it was a very static type of process. The information became stale. Well, not any longer. Now with your JD Edwards system, you can create a dashboard. You can create a concept where you can see data real time. You can launch out applications to act on that. You can send a notification to somebody else. You can run an orchestrator that'll kick off some other automated processes, both internally in Edwards and externally in other systems. And you can refresh this when you want. So you can get a real-time look as to what's going on. Now, why is that important? It's important because you as people, you all have too much to do. We all have too much to do. And the last thing we need to do is track down information, babysit a system. We don't have the time to do that. We need to achieve our potential. We need to perform at the highest level we can perform. And that's not by managing data and how data is entered and moves in the system, or how that data is extracted, exposed, and then decided upon, actions decided upon. We need help. We need a system that'll allow us to go ahead and achieve that potential that we're looking for. So guess what? You have that. You have that in JD Edwards as long as you're on Tools Release 9.0.2 and higher, preferably a Tools Release 9.2 higher than 9.2. You'll be able to create these dashboards. You'll be able to see that information. So what do we need to consider? When we talk about UDOs and we talk about all these things to create dashboards, we have to understand, do we have a workforce that understands and can consume these modern tools and technology, that's not going to be overwhelmed, right? Now, the answer is the tools that JD Edwards is offering are so similar to tools people have been using since Microsoft came out with its suite of products that it shouldn't be an issue. We also need to understand, though, who in the organization is going to do all this, right? Tom's a firm believer that everybody needs to act, or everybody acts differently and looks at things differently. Therefore, they should turn around and create their own. However, I do agree that there are times where a centralized process needs to be developed and people need to follow that centralized process. So who's going to create this content? How are we going to share it? Are we going to let people create their own or have a hybrid type of approach? Once we figure that out, how do we promote these things in the organization? we're going to see in a minute that all of these UDOs and dashboards and things like that, they're created by a user and that user owns it. Now, do we want that user promoting it to a bunch of other people, or do we want it to be self-consumed? We have to decide. And how do we deliver this? How do we deliver the fact that Tom created a dashboard, maybe John, can utilize a component of it or utilize some of it? Do I just share my dashboard, or does John create his own, right? And when I deliver results to people, do I let them look at the dashboard, or do I email a PDF, or do I email some type of OneView report? What do I do? Should it be an on-demand or scheduled type of thing? There's a place for both. There's a place where, Tom, if I come in the morning and I need to look at something, I should be able to launch it and look and do what I need to do. There's also a place for quarterly reports or, blue books or things of that nature that should be generated and then sent out to people. And the nice part about all of this, utilizing Orchestrator, utilizing the UDOs and the tools themselves, you can turn around and you can say, hey, for this thing, I want it to be scheduled to run, and then I want to send out an email with a link so that if somebody clicks on the link, they can actually launch it and see the results real time. Or you could send out a link and say, here's the report. Either way. Now, again, how do we share this stuff? And how do we turn around and create it? Now, there's a very important point here to understand that dashboards, UDOs, they're all objects in JD Edwards. And because of that, we don't want people simply to turn around and develop them in production without going through their normal process of turning around, testing them, and promoting them. So there's several things to consider when we talk about how we share them. We have a lot of clients that turn around, they do a tools upgrade, they do it in development or PY, then they let the masses go in and look at the new UDOs and the new tools functionality, let them play around and decide what do they want to promote to production, and then they turn around and they promote all that they need to promote into production. The other thing you need to remember with UDOs is this. JD Edwards has changed its philosophy of delivering new objects. In the past, everybody saw everything. Today, everything is locked down. You as a user, you need to be granted the access. So just because you go back to your organization now and you're on Tools Release 9.3 and you're going to see some of the things I'm doing, and you're going to say, well, wait a minute, I'm on Tools 9.3. I should have the capability to do this, but you don't see it. That's because you haven't been granted the access. So you need to work with IT. You need to work within your organization to make sure that you're aware of that. So ask yourself, is the company all it can be? And the company is all it can be, not only by the technology and what it's using as far as technology is concerned, but how the organization lets the users use that technology. It's the marriage of both of those that makes your company all it can be. Because if your people don't achieve their potential, your organization is not achieving its potential. So, what am I going to show you today? What are we talking about? We're talking about user-defined objects, which are included in as part of the tools release of JD Edwards. Now, in JD Edwards, you have a presentation layer, the application, right? But that application, when you see it, it's presented to you because of the tools and because of how it's structured. So those infrastructure tools are the things that help you provide time to value for JD Edwards, lowers the cost of ownership of JD Edwards. Why? You get rid of customizations, you get rid of modifications, you use the software to its potential. Hence, you're lowering your cost of ownership because you don't have to maintain these other things. You are using a flexible configuration and personalization aspect rather than a customization. Instead of actually having to define and decide and build a customization, you're using the inherent system and configuring it and personalizing it to your abilities. You're providing scalability when your organization grows. And most importantly, you're utilizing tools that people are familiar with and that people want from today's workforce. So your UDOs are the key components when we talk about dashboards. When we talk dashboards, you're going to do queries to create the data set you want. You're going to create a watch list so that when that data set hits a threshold, you're aware and you can go in and act on it. You're going to create a Cafe One page where you can link out to a third-party system or another system within your organization and be able to marry the systems together and see the results. You're going to be able to create a springboard. You're going to be able to take a reporting tool like OneView or Reports Now. You're going to join all those things together, and you're going to use an orchestration maybe to grab the data, push the data. You're going to use notifications to say to some people, hey, you need to work on this, you need to do X, Y, or Z. All of this together is going to give you this customized dashboard that you're looking for. So, having said all that, ask your IT group, what tools release am I on? Because you could see since release 9.2 came out, look at the level of tools releases that have come forward within JD Edwards. I'm still on application release 9.2.4, but yet look at the tools releases. And why is this important? Because every tools release is enhancing either existing tool functionality or it's embedding and creating new functionality. Now, as an example, I'm just showing you the timeline from tools 9.2.1 forward, and this is just the tools timeline for Orchestrator. Came out in 2017, one tools release for Orchestrator doing X number of things. 2018, two tools releases came out to enhance Orchestrator. 2019, three tools releases came out to enhance Orchestrator because Oracle's making Orchestrator their integration tool of choice. Well, guess what? In 2020, we're already at tools release 9.2.4.5. So you can see that Oracle is constantly changing and constantly increasing functionality, capability of the tools release. Now, if you go to our site, our website, getgsi.com, we have webcasts that we have recorded that talk about all the tools releases. We talk about the enhancements in each one. If you want to see them yourself, you can either go through the InFocus site, the Quest site, or you could turn around and go to learnjde.com, LEARNJDE.com. And when you go there, there is a function there that says version comparisons, right? And you're able to turn around and say, hey, I'm on tools release 9.1, and now I'm on 9.2.4.5. What's the differences? What's happened in between? And you can actually generate a report to see what you're missing. You should be doing that type of comparison at least quarterly, if not semi-annually, to understand the fact that you need to continually adopt changes. So today, what are we talking about? These are UDOs that we're talking about. And when we go through this list, and I'm not going to read it, but when we go through this list, I want you to pay attention to the parentheses next to some of these. That tells you the tools release it came out on. So if you're saying, geez, Tom, you're doing a composed page today, I don't see it. I'm going to say, what tools release are you on? If you say I'm on release 9.1, I'm going to say that's because you're not on the latest tools release for composed pages. So look at these things. Grid formats and how to change them, and queries, and OneView watch lists, EnterpriseOne pages. Look at 9.2.1, Orchestrator components. 9.2.1 had personal forms, and then we have search groups and notifications and schedules. Remember I talked to you and I said to you that if you go into your environment and you don't see these things, you might say, hey, Tom, I'm on 9.2.2, but I don't see notifications. Where are they? If you haven't been granted access, you can't see them. And access is, can you see it? Can you run it? Can you create one? Can you delete one? Can you change one? Sounds like a lot of work, and it is, but it's important because these things are very powerful, and you as an organization have to understand, just like that slide before about considerations, who should manage, who should do things. Okay? So each one of these things is a separate UDO that you need to be granted access for. And the other interesting thing is when you look at Orchestrator, each one of the orchestrator components, i.e., service requests, rules, whitelists, etc., each one of those is a separate UDO. So, Tom, I might have rights to do an orchestration, but I don't have the right to do the service request. So, again, understand what you need to do. 9224, form extensions. That's a big one. That's where you could turn around now. And if you think about JD Edwards, let's just take, customer service inquiry, right, for your salespeople. They go in and they say, hey, I want to look at open orders. That application is run over a table that has X number of fields. And when I look at the grid and I look at the actual application on the screen, not all of those fields are displayed. Well, what happens if you turned around and you said, wait a minute, I want to take a user reserve field for, the date, and I want to put a specific value that represents something for a date other than the ones that are normally on a sales order. Well, in the normal view, you don't see that field. With a form personalization and a form extension, you can now take those fields that aren't incorporated on that view and bring them in yourself. Before, that's something IT had to do. They had to create a whole new view. Now they don't have to. You can literally drag and drop that field so that it's exposed to everybody. Now, there's a caveat to that. That's not a form personalization. That's a form extension. In effect, you are making a quote unquote modification, and whatever you do is going to be seen by everybody, but that's a conversation for another day. Oracle's continuing, 9243. You can see watch list and E1 page composer. You can see in tools 9244 more form personalizations and additional translations for UDOs. All of these live on their own. Every one of those is a separate thing that you as an organization have to grant access to, that then once Tom creates something, and if I want to share it with John or Sally or Sue, I have to ask the administrator, i.e., I have to publish it and say to the administrator, hey, can you turn around and share this with everybody? And the administrator is going to look at it and say, yeah, you know what, this is okay, I'll approve it. Or he's going to say, wait, there's an error with this, I'm going to reject it and have you rework it. And then only when they're able to publish it will everybody be able to see it. So how do you get there? How do you look at your JDE system with the amounts of information you have? How do you create something where you can literally see what you want to see? Well, what you do is you use the UDOs to create your dashboard. Now, I said to you, you have to be granted access. When you sign on to JD Edwards and under your user ID, you click the drop down arrow, you're going to see a section that says manage content. If you don't see that section, it means you have no access. If you click on it, you might have access to compose pages. You might have access to search groups, but it all depends, right? So you go down there, you hit the drop down, manage content. We're going to talk about compose pages. When you go into a compose page, what can you do? You can have a designer page where you can literally just put little icons that represent an application or a watch list or whatever. Or you could put one view reports or, regular applications and things like that. But look at this, 9244 tools release 9244. Oracle has changed the philosophy and now said you can literally put a menu on your compose page, or you can put favorites on your compose page. making it a lot easier for you that if you have a menu you go to all the time, you can just put it on a composed page and you'll see it. And I'm going to do that for you. You're going to see that when we get into the demo. So if you don't have the time, you don't have the patience to do this, naturally Oracle has over 50 roles where they've created some pages already for you that incorporate all these UDOs. And these roles that they've created run across a myriad of different, organization type of responsibility. The other thing you could do is you could reach out to GSI and we can run a workshop with you and we can help you create some. Either way, do not forget Orchestrator, Notifications, and Search. They're UDOs as well. They're a prime tool used in your overall end-to-end philosophy of dashboards. I talked about Orchestrator, going out and getting information real time, so that when you're on your dashboard and you have a report, you can simply refresh it and see the most recent data. Notifications are important because if a certain transaction happens and all of a sudden Tom has to act on it and Tom is driving someplace, I can get an email and I can have a link where I click on the link, all of a sudden it runs an orchestrator that processes the transaction. And search, I love search. Search lets you look for information, be it numeric, be it alpha, be it whatever, across the entire transactional and master data database, and then lets you link out and see related information or actually drive down into an application. So having said all that, let's move forward. Let's get into the product demo. What you're going to see is I'm going to get into EnterpriseOne. I'm going to sign in under my user ID. And again, our lab is the latest and greatest tools release. It's 9244. Okay, we're in the midst of putting in 9245. But right now, if I go in here and I look at JD Edwards system, the first thing I'm going to see is I'm going to land on a landing page, right? And it just so happens that my landing page is something called My Work List. And this is an example of the kinds of dashboards you can have. My Work List literally has a bunch of, watch lists off to the left. It has my message center in the center, and then it has my orchestrator health monitor off there to the right. And this is a view that I use to simply say, hey, I want to look at all of those notifications that people are sending me, right? Or I want to look at my work center and I want to see, all my submitted reports, or I want to turn around in my personal in basket, see what I need to do. All right. So what are we going to look at now? We're going to turn around and look at my orchestrator monitor, right? This literally is for every orchestrator you have. It's telling you your health of the orchestrator, if it created and worked and processed. But again, that's a conversation for another day. Remember I said go in, look at manage content, and there you see compose page. I'm going to click on that. It's going to launch my compose page. And what am I going to do? Because it's on my landing page and my landing page is a composed page, it defaults to that. So I'm simply going to say I want to create a new one. And this is what you saw on the screen. And it's as easy as this. What do I want to do first? Maybe first I want to add a watch list. So I simply click on the watch list. It's going to ask me for a name. I'm going to give it a name. And then what do I want to see? Every watch list I'm available to? Do I want to pick and choose my watch list? Or do I want to see what I'm assigned? And if somebody adds a new one, dynamically update this page with the new one. I'm going to simply say, no, I want to pick and choose what I want. So I'm going to come out here and it's going to give me this little button. I'm going to click on it and I'm going to say, yes, I want to see blanket orders. Yes, I want to see sales quotes. Yes, I want to see credit orders. And you know what? Let me see my customer invoices. And better yet, let me even see back orders. Now I'm all done with watch lists and I say to myself, okay, you know what? Let's add a springboard. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add a springboard pane. And I have to drag and drop. If you notice, it changed to a hand. So I drag and drop and say, where do I want to put it? Well, I'll put my springboard right here. Okay. It's going to pop up. It's going to say, okay, give me a name. All right. I'm going to call my springboard demo. Give it a description of demo. Now it's going to ask me for my actual springboard. And again, you can turn around and you can search for it and, go through and look and either search by the actual name or search by the description. I already know what mine is, so I'm simply going to type it in. Mine is G42UX20. And then when I say OK, notice there's my springboard dealing with certain things with work orders, with sales orders. Now I'm going to turn around and I'm going to say, OK, wait a minute. Let me add an application. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add an application right here. And that application is going to be that message center that I showed you, right? So it's going to be P980051X. So now when I go and add that application, it's going to turn around and put that message center up here in the upper right hand corner. Okay, let's add another application. I want to be able to see the actual sales order. I want to see some statistics. I want to see my report, all that other good stuff. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, okay, again, P42101X. We'll wait for my machine to come back to life here. P42101X. I'm going to turn around. I need to understand the form I want, and I want form XE, which should be the very first one. And I'm going to say OK. And now notice what I throw up here. Remember we talked about that menu, right? Being able to add a menu. Well, I'm going to now grab menu, and I'm going to throw my menu here. Now, I'm a finance guy, so maybe I want to throw the menu G09, right? I type in G09, say OK. It's going to come back. You're getting the gist of this, right? Fairly easy. What about a URL? Well, you know what? As an organization, we deal with Granger. And it would be nice for us to be able to launch Granger and just be able to do what we got to do. So I'm going to verify my URL by saying, typing in the URL. And again, you can be as explicit or as you need to be. It's going to launch, it's going to make sure that Granger's out there, right? That Granger works. Excuse me. When it's all said and done, this will close. I'm going to say OK. And it's going to add Granger. And again, I could just keep going and adding whatever I want, understanding that, the real estate here, right? You have to be cognizant of real estate to a degree. And I'm going to say to a degree because I'm going to show you in a minute what you can do, right? So here I am, I can move things, make them bigger, smaller, all that good stuff. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to literally, this is what, a UDO. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to say save. It's going to ask me for a name. And when it does, I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to say OK. Now notice what happens. When it's done saving, you'll notice now, since it's a UDO, all these other icons become highlighted. I can now clone this and create another one. I can turn around and say I want to publish it. If it was published already and it was shared, I could turn around and say, hey, I want to reserve it, i.e., check it out and do something to it. Or if I don't want it anymore, I can literally delete it. So I'm happy. I'm going to say okay. When I say okay and close, it's going to add this quote unquote page to the banner bar. It's going to add it with the name that I created. And notice the name says demo. Okay. Now, when this page launches, and this is my page that I can work on now, notice what I can do. I can click on, a watch list, and it'll actually show me, right, how long it's been, how long ago it was updated, things like that. I can click the watch list and launch the application. I can turn around, and look at a myriad of these things. I could turn around and I can pop out the actual screen. And notice that if I added a menu, if I click on advanced and technical operations, it loads all of those and gives me a breadcrumb trail. So I can click and back and I can close it up again. When I'm all done, I can simply just push it back in. Same thing with my work list. I can turn around, go like this. I can say, okay, here I am in my work center. Look at my submitted jobs. I can refresh right here to see the latest information. Okay. The other thing you can do is you could turn around and you can minimize it and push it off to the side. And what will happen is the system will turn around and reorganize everything into a bigger format, right? Notice what it did at the bottom. And then if you want it back, you simply click it again and bring it back. The other thing I want to show you is when you talk about the reports, right? One view reports. Here's back ordered lines by next order status. You hover over a piece of the chart, it tells you what it is. You can click on a piece of the chart and actually launch the application. You can come up here. You could change the queries that the report was based upon. You could turn around and refresh this as well to see the most recent data. So again, you can do a lot of things. I can have a Cafe One page here that looks the same, that has maybe Google Maps on it or some other thing. And when I change the driving pane, it'll change the data everywhere else. So again, UDOs, that's what makes your dashboard. So let's finish up here and let's talk about some other important concepts. Another important concept is just because you're on Tools 9.1 and then you say, okay, I'm going to go to Tools 9.2.4.4, or let's say you're on Tools Release 9.2.3, and you say, I'm going to go to Tools 9.2.4.4. Just because you went to that tools level doesn't mean that you're adopting Oracle's philosophy of continuous innovation. Continuous innovation means continuous delivery of new application capability, tools capability by the vendor, but you as an organization continually adopting that. So Oracle's going to continually deliver twice a year, 3 times a year. They're going to come out with new tools releases. They're going to come out on a frequent, regular basis. They can be an independent tools release with just certain new stuff, or it could be cumulative, meaning it took the last 2 tools releases together. But you as an organization, you need to continually adopt the changes. You need to continually look and understand what it is, understand what you can use, and put that in your organization. Now, you don't have to follow the same cadence as Oracle does when they deliver it, but you need to look at them and you need to make sure that you're continually adopting what you need in your organization. Don't have to adopt everything. You only adopt what you need. You want to do that because you want your JD Edwards system to become the greatest value it can be. You want it to be able to help you adapt to your market changes so that you can succeed quickly, and you can do all of this on a short return of investment. You need to constantly evaluate, identify, and implement change. So weigh your options. The only thing I can tell you is this: The longer you wait, the more costly it gets. Why? Because maybe you build in some modification as a short gap fix solution, whereas a tools object can turn around and do the same thing. And why would that cost you more money? Because now you've gotten into a process and you've run it a certain way and people are used to it, but now you got to strip it out and do something totally different. Whereas if you knew what the tools can do, you evaluated it and implemented them, then you don't have to worry about this because going forward, it's taken care of. Make your JD Edwards system a market share expansion machine. Look at your people, look at their capabilities, look at your process and what you're doing and how you can make it better. Look at that technology and look at the tools and understand, putting them all together, what is going to give you that greatest business value. Turn around and implement that. Understand that if you stay with a continuous adoption model, you're going to be able to focus your IT costs and keep them to a minimum. You're going to have total visibility into the capabilities of the software. You're going to be able to get a more proactive reporting and planning mechanism in place, all while reducing customization and constant maintenance. Your organization will become more efficient with the use of orchestrator notifications and things of that nature, and you'll be able to serve your external users, i.e. vendors and customers, better and provide them greater data security, quality of information. All of this together is going to help your organization. So for those of you that would like us to come in and give you a greater tutelage on all of these UDOs and capabilities, we're offering remote training, and you can see, what the cost is right here. We will work with your organization to create a training program. And what I like about this is you could say, hey, instead of doing a quote generic kind of training, we can actually walk you through creating a dashboard that you would use in your organization. We could also turn around, if you would like other people in your organization to understand what we've just talked about, you can just as easily ask us to provide your organization with a one-off webinar regarding what we're talking about right now today. Just reach out to our website and turn around and request that. GSI as an organization, we have many different educational resources for you. We have pre-recorded webcasts. We come out with a monthly newsletter. We have a resource center. We have social media with YouTube. And we run workshops, at least one a month, not only on upgrades, but on Orchestrator. As I said, we even have a blog where you can turn around and collaborate with your peers from other organizations, understand what they've done, how they've utilized the tools, how they've utilized JD Edwards, how they've utilized GSI. And we have an ERP Talk problem-solving collaboration site where you can go in and ask a question, and we'll turn around and give you an answer. Okay? Social media, all types of social media, feel free to join us. So, any questions? More than happy. You can see at the bottom of the screen the various links for GSI. Reach out to us. We're there to help. We're here to help you thrive in your JD Edwards environment. So again, I want to thank everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, and hopefully we'll hear from you soon. Thank you.